Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the chance to watch us here on the video about legacy and what legacy means to you. So this is a new video series that I'm starting. If you're familiar at all with my work or my website, I talk a lot about what is legacy, what does it mean to you, what can it look like in your life, for your life. And I think that it's most important to give you examples of what it looks like in real life, to give you ideas about what you could do, to hear people's stories about how they got there, to hear the behind the scenes action in what it takes to get there. And this week, I want to start with a dear friend of mine, Debbie Clinton. Hi, Debbie.
Hello. Good morning.
We have been friends for a very long time. High school, right? High
Yeah.
school cheerleading team. And and over the years, I think that I looked up to Debbie in your work ethic and what you've created. Sometimes people think we're sisters, which I think is pretty cool. We should start using that, like at the bar.
Yeah.
Except we don't go to the bar because we have little kids. So over the years, as I started to get more and more into my work and my business, and understand what it really takes to work hard to build a business that works for you, that serves you and your family, it gave me even more reason to really admire Debbie and what she's created. And I'm also so intrigued because it's an industry that I'm not in, so I learn a lot when I talk to you. So with that, I guess, Debbie, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit and what you do and how you kind of got there. I think it's a cool story.
Thank you. So my name is Debbie. I am a insurance agent. I represent Farmers Insurance, and I've been with Farmers for 13 years, which when I say that out loud is crazy because I don't feel old enough to have been with a company for 13 years. So I like my story too with how I got where I am and where it started, because it was pretty humble beginnings in terms of I worked for a farmer's agent right out of high school, just a job to help me pay for college tuitions. And then from there, I went to work for our district office, so kind of a different position, but still in the insurance industry. And then did that for a couple of years, and then took this huge leap of faith to become an insurance agent, which is funny because I don't think that as a kid or a teenager or even a young adult that I was like, I want to be an insurance agent. That's my dream. But
do you remember when that opportunity came up? Like when you said huge leap of faith, like what was your fear at the time?
So I remember I worked for the district, and one of my roles as like an administrative assistant was to help train the new hires that would come on to be agents. So I was familiar with the quoting system, the billing system. So I had all these people coming to me, all of them usually older than me, and they were asking me for help on how to quote, and then even some marketing aspects of it, which, that was a whole nother thing I wasn't familiar or comfortable with, but helping people with marketing and sales. And so it started with just a thought, like, well, I wonder why I'm not doing this, right? Although at that point in time, that wasn't like my career choice. I was finishing up a psychology degree, like my friend Brittany. I thought I was going to maybe go be a school psychologist or something in that like mental health realm. But I didn't feel passionate enough about that to make that next step to like a graduate program. So I finished that degree, was working for Farmers, and it started as like that thought, and then it became that nagging feeling like, well, why am I doing this? I'm helping these people do a job that I feel like I could be, capable of. And I knew sort of like certain income potentials. And I mean, as much as we like to say like money maybe doesn't matter, I mean, there's that aspect, right, in life, that tool that you need. So I remember telling my then fiance, my now husband, that I was super nervous, that I wanted to go to my district manager and tell him that I wanted to be that agent that I was training. And I mean, I still remember like that physical shaking sensation walking
Yeah.
into his office and saying, "Hey, what do you think if I do this?"
Mhm.
And to my surprise, he was so excited for me, super encouraging, probably had more faith in me and more confidence than I did at the time. I was 20, I think, at this point. So, pretty young. And he was like, "You're going to do awesome. You go for it." And that was sort of the beginning of becoming an agent and then eventually an agency owner.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I have to start with my favorite question, which is what does legacy mean to you?
So, because I knew you were going to ask me that, it's funny because I feel like we hear the word legacy a lot. I do. I mean, I hear it in a lot of different.
Right, especially in what you do, right?
Yeah, I hear legacy. I mean, and even it just seems like it's a popular world, or a popular word in general. And so, I feel like we know what it means. And yet I was like, I'm going to Google this and just like, what is the definition of legacy? So the definition that I came across was the money or property left in a, will or to someone. And I don't think that, to me, that's necessarily what resonates with the word legacy. For me, it's more of like that, like an intangible thing, not necessarily money or property, but sort of like, what are you leaving? What are you building that will eventually be left in terms of your, I don't know, like reputation? I think of family a lot when I think of a legacy. I feel like I've heard that word used when somebody's celebrating like their 50th wedding anniversary, and you think, well, look at this legacy they've created. They have children, often then they have grandchildren and great grandchildren. So for me, legacy is sort of like this reputation that you've built, and for me specifically, that's family and my business. So when I think of legacy, it's what does what I'm building look like to my family, my coworkers in 10 years from now and 20 years from now, when I get ready to retire, what sort of legacy have I built along the way?
One key thing that a lot of people talk about with me when I talk with them about legacy, we nail it down to the word impact.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of impact do you want to make to the people around you? And whether that's your family or people you interact with in your business, or what kind of impact do you want your business to make in the world?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm a pretty consistent person. Like when I think about like decisions or moments along the way so far in my career, like if I had to say like why do I think I'm running a successful business or insurance agency? So in terms of like impact, I think it's just that I am this consistent, reliable person, and whether to my family, that means I'm that mom that shows up to the events, right? I'm the one who their kid knows mom's going to be there. That's a huge blessing in this job and this legacy that I'm creating. That and not I don't know that I can take credit for thinking about this at age 20 when I decided to be an insurance agent, but I did know somewhere, sort of maybe subconsciously, that I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to work while being a mom. I don't think I ever anticipated that I would, for me personally, that I would be a stay-at-home mom full time. And yet with this career that I have, I'm able to leave every day to pick up my kids from school. Some days they come back here with me if I have appointments. And I mean, that's just the flexibility and freedom, and that's amazing. So, and then when they were babies, being able to be at home with them during certain seasons. They're 4 and 6 now. And so I didn't think about that then, but that's a huge, like in terms of impact, just being present for my kids is a big one. And then for the people that I actually do business with, my clients, my staff, just if people were going to describe me, I mean, I would want it to be these in very positive ways, like someone they can trust. I mean, insurance in general is like a huge, you're trusting me with collecting your money to ensure things that are important to you. So trustworthy, consistency, people knowing that I'm not going anywhere. I've worked for the same company for 13 years. And I mean, that's important. I expect to be here in 20 or 30 years from now as well.
Right. So in your industry, the relationships that you build, the quality of those relationships is really the impact that you make there, right? And when those unforeseen circumstances do happen for people, that you are the person that's predictable, reliable, and you do the thing that you say you're going to do. So you're a person of integrity.
Yeah, that's what I strive to be, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. So what have been some of the moments or the key decisions or circumstances that have happened along the way to get you closer and closer to your legacy?
I think for me, I don't make quick decisions. And I wouldn't say make hasty decisions. And so I feel like for me, it's been these like consistent small steps. So, for example, when I decided to go to my district manager and asked about becoming an agent, I was already in the insurance industry. It was something that I had watched for almost 2 years. So I had this sort of educated, if you will, decision to say, this is what I think I want to do next, which is different from some people that I've noticed around me that make big, hasty decisions, right? And my personality is not like that. So for me, I've just made careful, small decisions, always hoping to like propel forward, but not any that, are so risky, which ironically, I'm in the business of insuring people against, their risks.
Right.
So that's probably pretty fitting. So I've just made like small steps along the way. Even a couple of years ago, I voluntarily signed up for a program at my company to sort of like propel me to a new level. And so it was just to take whatever I was doing one step further, try a little bit harder. And there was a little risk involved, but, in terms of quotas and things like that, but it paid off, and it was a small step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. So have there been other moments that maybe felt as, and I don't want to say as grave, but as important, as that day where you did say, hey, I want to be an agent, right? Like where you felt that fear feeling,
Mm-hmm.
I think you gave an answer that from my experience, I know to be true, that it's these small, consistent steps that get you there, right? I know a lot of people want to hear, no, there was this one moment and I had a dream about like, this was my passion and I'm going to pursue it and this is going to change the world. And then I woke up and I started making it happen. Like it doesn't happen like that. There are no big fireworks. There's no like Disney movie type of plot here. It's that you stick to something and you keep figuring it out little by little. So, and then customer service, you're doing phone calls. That's how you get that. No.
There, not disturbed.
Can you remember that, like that fear feeling, being like, wow, like this is edgy. Like I have to kind of decide where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do about this.
Yeah, I've had other moments that are like 2 years ago, I kind of challenged or accepted a challenge to branch out and do more business insurance quoting than, I think when people think of their insurance, they think of their cars and their home and that. And so then there's this whole other world of business insurance and life insurance and financial services. And so, I'm licensed and able to do all those things, but the level of going after them and pursuing them, I've sort of kind of taken that up a notch in the last couple of years, and it's definitely pushed me outside my comfort zone. 6 months ago, I started paying a company to set business insurance appointments for me. So I'm driving, an hour sometimes to get to these appointments, meeting with other business owners like myself, but in industries that are I have no idea about like manufacturing, and the restaurant industry. And so definitely been pushed outside my comfort zone. But I think that you have to do that. If I was doing the exact same thing day after day, year after year in this industry, I mean, I would get complacent and bored. And so for me, especially when I think back, it's been 13 years, but every day sort of does feel different. And I wake up every day, I'm like, I never have that, oh, I don't want to go to work feeling. But, so I think I've definitely pushed myself a little bit out of my comfort zone. And I've been asked, because of the success of the agency in the last few years, I've been asked to lead webinars. I led a webinar last month about how we implement our review system with our clients, how we stay in touch, because we've been recognized as doing a good job at that. So talking to a group of my peers on a webinar, hundreds of people, I'm used to sitting down with people one-on-one, face-to-face. So that, again, all these small things, I think I just rise to the challenge. If I'm asked to do something, I sort of just go, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? And this is kind of a tangent, but going back to that decision I made to approach my district manager, I remember this gentleman at the time. He was one of the new hires. He was going to be an agent. And I remember sharing with him and a couple of the other guys that I wanted to do this, but I was really scared. And he said, it's only the decision you make until he makes the next decision. And I'm sure he said it more eloquently than that. But basically what he was getting at was, so what if you decide to do this agent thing and it doesn't work? So what? Like, it's just a decision you made until you make your next one. And I think I've sort of held that with me. What's the worst that can happen? You try something and it doesn't work, and then you regroup and try something again or try something different.
Right. That fear of failure is the thing that really holds people back. Right. And so I think, you just talking about your experiences about pushing beyond that and how you kind of rationalize it and your mental process in deciding to move forward anyways is so valuable. Everyone has a different method that works for them, but it's those moments. It's deciding like, well, this isn't forever. Whatever this is, it isn't forever. And it likely won't kill me. Right. And just understanding like that lack of permanence and the flexibility within it, instead of it's this do or die, it's a forever sentence, whatever it is. Understanding that lack of permanence really helps people move forward. But so on the theme of failure, I have to ask you, what has been a huge failure? No one wants to talk about this part.
Gosh, so I thought about this earlier. It was like, I feel it's just like knock on wood and I don't want to sound like boastful or something, but I feel really lucky and blessed. I have not had any in my definition of like failure. I mean, sure, like day-to-day failures of, I wish I would have handled that differently or spoken it in a different way, or I think in this industry, I'm not selling a product in terms of like tangible. I'm selling a service of people are choosing to do business with me. You can buy insurance from hundreds of different companies, so they're choosing that relationship. So I think for me, I don't know that there's been any huge failure. I've never gotten close to like shutting down the business or closing the doors yet or anything.
What about in like a personal like interaction? What about like a customer service situation, or maybe even a new customer meeting, like a potential new customer referral meeting, and it just went like, whoa, this, either you were like gravely like misunderstood, or I don't know, just any.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yes, I have had many like moments with clients that, you're like, I should have come across differently. For me, a lot of it has been I guess what I can think of most recently are those business insurance appointments that I go to. A couple of them that I went to in the beginning, I failed to do enough research before I got there. I kind of felt like that I should have come into it more prepared. So those are great. I just take those and go. I mean, I never like dwell in that or beat myself up for too long. I just go, well, next time I'm going to do this differently, right? Now, whether or not I do the next time or not, but I have that conscious thought, like I should have like really looked up this business before I got in the car this morning to drive, an hour to go to it. There was a couple appointments I went to that I got there and they weren't even eligible for, our company to write their business. And so I'm like, well, that was a great waste of 3 hours round trip. But again, I still took something away from it, learn a little bit about something.
Well, they have like a vetting process now over the phone to make sure they initially qualify.
Right. And that's kind of right. That's the point of failures. So no huge failures, right? But definitely, let's call them learning experiences instead of failures, where you're just like, I should have. I've gotten really good to, and this just comes with like experience and time, where if clients are upset about anything, whether it's a bill or insurance coverage or a claim, that I've like learned over the years of how to kind of respond, and just patience and understanding and those kind of things. So lots of learning experiences along the way.
Mm-hmm. And you're right. Like that's a really like positive spin on the word failure. And I use the word failure on purpose because I think like you have to speak the scary thing, say the scary thing. One, I think because it gets people's attention, but also the truth is like people are massively afraid of failure. And for a lot of people, it would feel like a huge failure to go and like find that they didn't even qualify and you like wasted 3 hours of your time.
Right.
Or you were misunderstood when you were speaking or whatever, you guys didn't connect and it didn't work out. And I think your understanding that, well, that's not a huge failure. That's a learning opportunity. Like that form of resilience and self-acceptance and all of that is what it takes to keep moving forward in your journey and towards your legacy. That one appointment is not who I am as a person. It's the decision you made until you make another decision, right? Like choose to do it differently next time. Right. So instead of getting stuck in that, you have framed it where, well, what am I going to take away from this? Hopefully learn and do differently next time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I probably didn't feel that way when I was 20 or 21 and making, I can sort of, my memory's a little fuzzy, but I do remember client appointments, from like 10 years ago where I would go into them and have those feelings afterwards, like, and I just think that you just learn a lot the more like a client appointments you get under your belt, the better you're going to get at them. Right. And so they say it takes 10 years to become an expert in anything. I think I've heard that. And so I feel like at this point, maybe I've like just scratching the surface of getting there. And that's a good feeling. Like it's a good place to be. Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. So what advice do you have for the person that hates their job, doesn't feel like they're aligned with their purpose in life, or they're just not excited about their life right now?
So my advice is, if I'm going to speak to what I sort of have done, I think it's those small steps. I have seen people who, have friends or family, people around me that have like, oh, I really don't like my job. I just hate this job. And then the next thing you know, they turn in a 2-week notice and they're not really even sure what the next step is. And then I know that works out for some people, right? But I wouldn't give that advice to anyone. I think that it's just those small steps. So if you don't like something, do a little research on what you think you would like. And then before you decide to throw in the towel on something and completely change directions, go spend a day with someone that does something you think that that's what you want to do, maybe even more than a day, right? But I've interviewed a lot of people over the years to work, for me in my agency, and a lot of them I've sort of learned this along the way too. If they've never done insurance before and they really think they want to get into it, I say, you should sign up for the insurance exam test, because in the process of going through the studying, which, not that you should let that test be like, that's not exactly what the job is. It's a very dry test, but at least like going through the study material, you sort of start to familiarize yourself with what you'll be talking to people about day in and day out. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think as some advice I would give is just small steps, like one little thing at a time. What's the next right step for you? It doesn't have to be like you said, it's not that dream that you wake up and you have to drop everything and run 100 miles in one direction. I think just consistency and small steps.
That's great. I think a lot of people feel that they need to know the whole plan, right? Mm-hmm. And what I love about your story is like, it was just kind of happenstance. Like, you had this job not thinking anything of it, and then you saw an opportunity, mm-hmm. from taking small steps, probably getting more and more responsibility in that position, and then learning more and more and realizing you kind of had a knack for it. I know that vision boarding and creating a big vision and all this stuff sounds sexy in this industry, mm-hmm. but as important as planning is, I think presence is more important. Just, I use this saying all the time with people, is your head in the same place that your feet are in? Mm-hmm. So you can only figure out if you like something in that present moment.
Right.
So really, like, being present with where you're at. Like, I encourage people all the time, you hate your job, I want you to go and treat it like it's the best thing on earth. Like, you absolutely love it. Like, this is your passion, and then see how you feel about it. Like, if you're apathetic in any job, you're going to hate it. Mm-hmm. If you are having a bad day in any job, you're going to hate it. I know I have days all the time where I'm like, I could quit. I could totally quit this gig and just get a job somewhere and get a paycheck and go home at 4:30, because those days are going to happen anywhere.
Right.
So I think getting really, like you said, it's the small steps, right? But mm-hmm. paying attention along the way, seeing the opportunities, or paying attention to what happens for you when you're in those moments. Oh, I like this. I really don't like that. So that's how you built your legacy, right? That's how you're building it today.
So far. So far.
That's awesome. So key take homes to me were that legacy for you is about family and your business, mm-hmm. about the relationships you create with those groups, being a person of integrity.
I like all those things you said.
Awesome. Ta-da, there's your legacy. See, as promised.
Now it's recorded and I'll have to forever live.
That's right. So everyone can throw it back in your face if you're not.
Exactly, yeah. It's good. It's accountability.
Thank you so much for joining me today and indulging me in this conversation. And I hope the rest of you have taken some little nuggets of wisdom with you, and hopefully you can put this into your process in building your legacy as well. How can people reach you, Debbie, if they want to ask questions, or if they need some insurance, if they're in the right jurisdiction?
Oregon or Washington. If anyone has questions on legacies and advice and things like that, I'm on Facebook, Debbie Clinton, and my email is dclinton@farmersagent.com. So pretty easy. But yeah, thank you for having me. It was a nice chat, and hopefully, like you said, somebody took something valuable out of it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.